Hello, welcome to Soulprint Insights. So, a little while ago, I requested that if you have questions of Masudius or indeed other areas that you would like to look at, to please send me that forward in my comment section and I would make a list of them. And so thank you for those who have done that. I have my list going. And that the offer continues, right? If there's things that you want a bit of a deeper dive on or just topics that haven't been covered, please feel free to put them through the comment section. I go through all of my comments. I read them all. So I'll get them, I hope. Okay. So today I'm going to do a channeled reading. I'm going to call on Masudius to ask the question about what happens to a soul when suicide takes place. Like what is the impact on the soul, and how does that affect sort of their journey going forward or what they experience? So that's going to be the topic of the day. And frankly, with everything that's going on, I mean, this is an incredibly stressful time. And so I think that, unfortunately, if we don't know somebody who has committed suicide, we probably know somebody who knows somebody. So it feels, and of course, as anxieties ratchet up, it just feels like this is maybe a good topic to touch base on. So continue to keep those requests coming in. For those of you who are interested in a private reading, there is an email address in the description box below. So just send me an email and we can start that conversation. I also want to thank those of you who have who have donated to me. I keep saying the words, it just humbles me, but it absolutely just does. I just find myself almost in a state of wonder over how amazingly generous you all have been. And so I'm very grateful for that. And I just wanted to make a point of mentioning it again. For any of my new subscribers to Soulprint Insights, welcome. Okay. So we're going to call on Masudius, and I'm going to ask him to please give me some guidance, some insight, some understanding of what happens with the soul or to the soul when a suicide takes place. So here we go. We once again thank you ever so much for the opportunity to commune with you, to have these conversations with you, to share our wisdom and understanding with you. And we are honored that you have found us and you find value in the messages of the Masudius group. So, suicide. The taking of one's life. Now, first of all, there is a lot of religious doctrine out there that will tell you that this is a terrible, terrible sin. It is almost not recoverable from, and that the soul becomes lost. Well, this is a little bit of a incorrect way of viewing the life, the energy, and the power of the soul. It cannot be destroyed. It cannot lose its life. So, in thinking that this is some terrible, terrible sin, you are forgetting to remember that you have, each and every soul, their divine inheritance is free will. So the soul makes a decision that it is wanting to end its journey on the earth in that life experience. And so they choose to do something that is going to cause that permanent detachment of soul to physical body. Now, does that mean that there are no consequences? No, it does not. Just as every other action you take has consequences. Again, for good or for bad, or positive or negative, there are consequences. And so, too, are there consequences when a soul chooses to consciously and purposely separate from physical form? The short answer, in terms of what happens, is that the soul experiences death exactly as they think they're going to. That has been covered already in, what happens during a physical death. So now if they believe that because they are going to kill themselves, they are going to end up in hell, well, that's exactly what's going to happen to them until such time as they recognize that they don't have to stay there and they can connect with the light beings who are desperately trying to pull them from that self-imposed hell into the light so there can be healing and recovery. Whatever it is that a soul believes is going to happen in death is what happens in death. And then eventually there comes sort of a coming together or a realization that in energy form, you really are just part of a massive grouping, if you will, of energies. Ultimately, what happens is that typically the reason a soul consciously chooses to just leave their body is because they are in a place where some aspect or many aspects perhaps of their physical experience feels hopeless. Perhaps it feels intolerable. Perhaps they are just simply so devastated. They're just stuck in a place that is almost like too hard for them to cope with or process. Those experiences came into a soul's life, whether by design, right? Whether that is conscious design or otherwise, but it was a place or a space that the soul was meant to journey through and learn the lessons, take the value from it. And they did not do that. They chose to leave the lesson kind of midstream, if you will, right? Before a resolution was created. What will happen is once the soul has return to energy form, and they've gone through that process of life reviews, and they've healed, and they perhaps have gained some wisdom or some understanding, they will return back to that experience. So they will create a new soul print with a whole new bunch of life experiences, and that same issue, concern that they're trying to master, if you will, they're trying to understand, they're trying to grow from, will somehow or another circle back into their next physical existence, or perhaps a physical existence down the road. Because it is possible that a soul who has chosen to leave physical body can take many, many lifetimes to learn the skills or the tools or the understandings that would prevent a repeat of the suicidal action. So, of course, energetically, no one wants to see someone just consciously choose to end their life. But when they do, it is not and should never be thought of as some permanent event that is going to stay with them beyond all of, for all of their future existences. They're not going to be cast into a fiery pit of hell, because the fiery pits of hell only exist in the minds of those who believe in the fiery pits of hell. It is always so painful for not only the person who has chosen to leave their physical experience, but of course, for those of you who are left behind, who are trying to make sense of the choice or the decision that was made. You're trying to make sense of why that person didn't reach out for help, why that person wasn't able to share their worries, their experience, and lighten the load. And of course, many, many of you will suffer from the thought processes along the lines of, I should have done more, why didn't I see it, I could have done this. And we implore you to please let that go. It serves really no growth purpose. What it does is it attaches you to the grieving process, because you have attached blame, self-blame, to that which you are grieving. And it makes that grieving process, that saying goodbye process, so much more painful and difficult. Probably the most beneficial behavior, the most helpful thing that can be done when you hear of someone who has chosen to consciously separate from physical form, is to send a prayer. Pray that they will move into the light for their highest good. Pray that they not be lost in a place of darkness, but that their soul receives and accepts guidance and support so they can be gently ushered towards the divine light. Sadly, the act of suicide is becoming more prevalent as the energies and the stressors of your planet Earth continue to find or seek and hope to find a new energetic or vibrational balance. But truly, while it is not something that is rejoiced about, because ultimately a soul chose to remove themselves from the opportunity to remember the lesson or the guidance. So while it is not a time for rejoicing, nor is it a time to assume that things are going to be terrible for that soul forevermore. It's simply incorrect. That's not what happens, and that's not how it happens. And we appreciate from our energetic place that on the planet you reside in, organized religion has really done everything in their power to ensure that the behavior or the action is viewed as a sin. It is viewed as something that is destructive and detrimental to the soul. But indeed, it is simply another opportunity where that was given and the soul chose not to learn the experience. For those of you who have suffered the loss of a loved one through suicide, please know that by and large, their souls are at rest, they're at peace, they're in a place of healing. It is very rare for a soul that commits suicide to stay in a low vibrational place for very, very long, because the energy beings that surround them with such beautiful, strong, powerful light encourage them to please move out of the darkness and into the light for healing. And many, many do. Many, many, many do. And those who remain in a dark place continue to be surrounded by energy beings who continue the unending work and honor of helping these souls move from the place they are into a better place. We hope that that brings comfort, clarity, and perhaps even understanding. All life contains a soul. All life has guardians that surround it to help preserve, protect, and create opportunities for growth. Every soul has those guardians, whether you want to call it a guardian angel or a spirit guide or any other name. No living thing is without support. And so too, do you have support? Do you have the blessings of the divine? And we hope that this provides some clarity, that all is never lost, There is always hope. There is always a path forward. But should you choose not to walk that path or find the path, know that there are those on the other side who are doing everything they can to bring you to a place of healing. And for those of you who are left, don't grieve so. Send them light, send them love, send them compassion and understanding. We remain, at this time, Masudius. Thank you. As usual, all channeled Masudius information is copyrighted under my name. I think we're going to leave it there. I think there's a lot of food for thought there. So remember, stand in your strength and stand in your light.